Count Dooku plunged the galaxy into civil war and paved the way for the Galactic Empire. But actually, he was right. Welcome back to ScreenCrush, I'm Ryan Airy, and let's dive deep into the history of Count Dooku and explain why he sided with Palpatine and why he had a noble goal. But in the end, he was just as much of a pawn as Anakin, Yoda, or any of the other good guys in this saga. See, Count Dooku is one of the most pivotal characters in all of Star Wars. When we meet him in Attack of the Clones, he kind of comes out of nowhere as this scheming former Jedi. He's very similar to Saruman from Lord of the Rings, a character that Christopher Lee also played just 6 months before Attack of the Clones was released. They are both elderly wizards, highly respected by their orders, who fall under the sway of a Dark Lord and betray their former allies. But when you learn about Dooku's past and what he thought Palpatine was going to do, you can really see where the guy was coming from. So first, I have to go back and give you a little background on the Republic and the Jedi. See, when we meet the Jedi in The Phantom Menace, the Order has already started its very slow decline. But the High Republic series, which takes place 300 years before The Phantom Menace, shows the Jedi at their peak. When a galactic threat called the Nihil terrorizes the Republic, the Jedi do not immediately launch into war against them. Now, the Senate votes to use planetary security forces to fight the pirates, while the Jedi hold a separate vote to determine if their order will be involved. The Republic and the Jedi Order are two completely separate entities. But in the show The Acolyte, we see that some senators are wanting to put political pressure on the Jedi Order.
I think in light of these events, Chancellor, we cannot wait for a full Senate vote. An external review of the Jedi must begin.
And even though we may never get a season 2 of that show, we do see the result. The very first scene in The Phantom Menace shows two Jedi on a mission from the Supreme Chancellor. They weren't sent by the Jedi Council or guided by the Force. They are following the order of a politician. Dooku of Serrano, by the way, that's his actual full name, grew up during this transition period. Gradually, the Council became less of an independent body and increasingly took orders from politicians. There's also a great audio novel called Dooku, Jedi Lost that is about his early years and explains exactly why he left the Jedi Order. See, when he was a youngling, he was best friends with Sifo-Dyas.
Now wait a minute, I know that name.
Yeah, that's the Jedi that hired the Kaminoans to build the clone army.
Please tell your master, Sifo-Dyas, that his order will be met on time.
Now, he was killed by Dooku, but when they were kids, Sifo-Dyas was plagued with visions of the future. But Yoda and the rest of the Jedi don't trust visions of the future because, as he says,
always in motion is the future.
So we'll talk about those visions at length a little later in the video. But you have to understand that Dooku was an incredibly skilled youngling, which is why Grandmaster Yoda took him on as an apprentice, which was unheard of at the time. But Yoda's main teaching was to ignore Dooku and just meditate. This frustrated Dooku and he tried to use the Force to impress his master until finally he learned Yoda's lesson, that he was trying to teach Dooku patience and that there are limits on his power. See, Dooku was always the most gifted student at the temple, so Yoda had to let him learn his own limitations. This instilled in young Dooku a spirit of cooperation that ultimately would lead to his frustrations later in life. But see, Dooku did differ from his master on one important point, the dark side. Dooku actually learned a lot from Sifo-Dyas' master, Lene Kostana. Kostana thought that the Jedi should not ignore the dark side, and so she collected dark side artifacts so they could learn more about the Sith in case they ever re-emerged. And this is a key way that Dooku was right. He saw the dark side coming while the other Jedi shrugged them off.
Impossible. The Sith have been extinct for a millennium.
And this brings us to the most important moment in Dooku's young life, a moment that changed the galaxy forever. Now, I would like to take a moment to tell you guys some really amazing news. I have become a canon Star Wars character. Friend of the channel, Adam Lance Garcia, wrote a short story called The Failing of the Light, which features a Jedi character named Ryza Airy, named after me. And this means that I am a Jedi.
Wow, that is an awesome lightsaber.
I know, it's pretty cool, right? Here, let me turn this on so you can see it. This looks just like the lightsaber that Luke builds for himself in Return of the Jedi. But get this, I can customize it to any color that I want. And best of all, it's a battle saber, durable and perfect for sparring. And I got this from Extra Life Sabers. They're the sponsor of this video. I love this saber. It is battle grade. ready for dueling, but it also looks great when it's on display. It also features every single blade collar, which you can change on the saber itself, but I love that I can fully customize it from the app. I can change everything from the collar, the effects, the volume. Like, look, this is like Kylo Ren's saber. Isn't it awesome? It's like buying a saber from every era of Star Wars. It also features multiple sound effects and sound fonts. Extra Life sabers are included with a 1-year warranty, and they are backed with real customer support. Guys, these are some of the best prices you can find for battle-ready sabers, and you can save an extra 10% when you use the code ScreenCrush at checkout. The link is below, and you will not regret it. They make for a perfect gift, or in my case, a great gift for myself. Now, back to what I was saying. So very long story short, Dooku, Sifo-Dyas, and Kostana were trapped by a group called the Presagers of Hakutai. They sacrifice people to the dark side of the Force so they can have visions of the future. And when Dooku is their prisoner, he has a vision.
Wrong this is.
We have no choice. The Senate has been corrupted. The Jedi must take control.
Control.
Master Jedi, what is the meaning of this?
The rule of the Jedi has begun.
The Jedi as conquerors.
That's right, in that vision, he sees the Jedi taking control of the galaxy. Now, later this is clarified as being a possible future, and it is the dark side of the Force that is showing this to him, so Dooku doesn't immediately trust this vision. But then, for the rest of his life, he's going to be haunted by this image. The Jedi Order takes control of the galaxy and destroys the Republic, but that vision also showed him an alternative. That's Order 66.
There had to be a different way, and there was.
184th Attack Battalion, move out. Order 66 must be executed.
Dooku saw a way that the Jedi Order could be eradicated. Now remember, at the time, he is a loyal Jedi, but he also is always seeing cracks in their system. So I should also note that Dooku was unusual because he maintained close ties to his sister, Jinza. She was the daughter of the Count of Serrano, and she and Dooku only accidentally discovered they were long-lost siblings, so they became pen pals for decades, meaning that Dooku had some of those personal attachments that tend to make Jedi fall from grace. And this brings us to Tales of the Jedi Episode 2, called Justice. Now this story takes place when Dooku was training the young Padawan Qui-Gon Jinn, and then they were sent by the Jedi Council to rescue a senator's son who had been kidnapped. Now when they arrive, they find that the planet has been decimated. The senator is corrupt, and he has drained the planet's resources for his own benefit. And because of this corruption, the people just can't vote him out. Even the senator's son understands why he was kidnapped.
What choice do they have?
So when the senator shows up, Dooku follows his gut and sides with the rebels. He even force chokes the senator until Qui-Gon frees his son, thereby saving the senator's life. So the episode is an example of how Dooku began to lose faith in the system of democracy. We see that this system did not exist to benefit the people, but instead it is exploited by the powerful. And where political matters are concerned, Dooku is willing to defy the orders of the Jedi Council. You see, this conflict represents the difference between morals and ethics. The ethical code of the Jedi is to keep the order of the Republic. But morally, Dooku saw that the letter of the law was wrong, so he felt that he must defy the Council and defend the people of this world.
Corruption like yours must be eradicated.
Think of it like the rest of the Jedi are cops, and Dooku is a masked vigilante. He is rising above the system to save the people of this planet. Now, Tales of the Jedi Episode 3 is called Choices. The Jedi Council sent Dooku and Mace Windu to investigate the death of a Jedi on planet Raxus, which, by the way, is the future capital of the Confederacy of Independent Systems. Now, the two of them are under strict orders to collect the Jedi Master's body and return it to the temple. But when they meet the senator who saw the Jedi die, Dooku gets suspicious and he wants to know more. The Jedi travel to the spot where the Jedi died, and Dooku immediately pokes holes in this story.
If Master Ketri were fired upon here, why are there no blast marks on your ship?
Then the guards attack. It turns out that they are part of yet another group of rebels who are dissatisfied with their representation. Mace says that they could have helped these people if only they would have asked.
Why didn't you take this to the proper authorities?
And then they reply,
Jedi are lapdogs of the Senate. Their bidding always comes first.
And Dooku sees that this is true. The Jedi are in a bubble. They live on the wealthiest planet in the galaxy, close to the Senate building in the center of power. I mean, hell, they're literally surrounded by metal and not nature, so they are out of touch with the living Force and with the common people. Afterwards, the council votes for Mace Windu to take the new seat on the council. And Dooku also takes a new job. He becomes the Jedi Council's direct liaison to the Senate. He decides that the senators will never change the system on their own, so instead, he has to advocate for the disenfranchised. Then, in one Senate session, he advocates for the Republic to spend more money on defense, because there are too few Jedi to protect the planets in the Outer Rim.
Only a fully funded Republic Guard can provide the security our citizens deserve.
He argues that these poorer worlds cannot provide for their own defenses, which is a reasonable argument. But then the powerful core worlds immediately counter-argue, saying, well, why should we have to pay to defend others?
Federation already pays more than enough in taxes.
This is a far cry from the High Republic era, when the rallying cry was, we are all the Republic. So now, the wealthy systems rig the bureaucracy to benefit themselves, and they let the crime lords rain terror on the defenseless worlds on the edges of the galaxy. Now remember this, because these are the same worlds that will eventually split from the Republic in the Clone Wars. Now shortly after this, long story short, Dooku's home planet of Serrano is in trouble, and he decides that the only way to save his people is to leave the Jedi Order and inherit the title of Count from his dead father. And this is why he is called Count Dooku. However, he keeps close ties to the Jedi Order. He visits Coruscant and his old friends in the temple. But during this time, he also rules over a prospering planet. His personal wealth accumulates, and he forms attachment to things, to his world, to his people. And this is when he is approached by Darth Sidious. Now, Dooku's embrace of the dark side is far more gradual and nuanced than Anakin's. Anakin, frankly, was just a kid. He wanted to save his wife from death. But Dooku had spent decades watching the ineptitude of the Jedi Council as they increasingly served a corrupt Senate. As a child, he saw a vision of these Jedi overthrowing the Senate and ruling the galaxy. So Sidious offers him a straightforward plan. We can't save this Republic, so it's gotta go. He tells Dooku that we can erase the Republic, though, and replace it with a stronger system. And because the Jedi serve the Senate, they must also be replaced. Now, from a distance, he is able to see how the Jedi Order is becoming more and more beholden to the Senate and to the Chancellor. Like I mentioned earlier, the Chancellor was the one who sent Qui-Gon on a mission to Naboo, the mission that ultimately got him killed. Amidala saw atrocities on her home planet, and she pleaded with the Senate for help, but their action got bogged down in red tape.
We recommend a commission be sent to Naboo to ascertain the truth.
So then Amidala went rogue and had to defy the Senate's orders. But because of this, the Council decided that they cannot send more Jedi to the planet, because that would defy the will of the Senate. This is even though Qui-Gon had just uncovered the existence of the Sith. Now, because the Council was so wrapped up in procedure and red tape, Qui-Gon was forced into a one-on-one match with Darth Maul and lost his life. So Dooku carries all of these resentments toward the Council and the Senate and the bureaucracy. Senate and Dooku form a plan to stage a civil war to weaken the Republic and then to use the war to consolidate power under Palpatine. This war would also be used to thin the Jedi ranks, and this was also the system could be replaced with a stronger one. And this takes us to Tales of the Jedi Episode 4, The Sith Lord. So this episode is loosely in two parts. The first part takes place during the events of The Phantom Menace. Dooku visits the Jedi Temple to erase Kamino from the system archive. And this is shortly after he sent his friend, Sifo-Dyas, to commission the clone army from the Kaminoans. Sifo-Dyas, remember, was plagued with Force visions for his entire life, so he saw a coming threat, and he believed that they had to be ready for when the Dark Forces arrived to destroy the Republic. But to cover his tracks, Dooku had him killed. Now, he did this, though, because the clone army had to remain a secret. Remember, Dooku had already advocated for a stronger central defense system years earlier and was rejected. So in his mind, he had to force the creation of the clone army for the Republic's own good. Now, the second part of this episode happens after Qui-Gon has died. He knows that Darth Sidious is responsible, and it's important to note that here, Dooku has not joined the Sith. At this point, he believes that he can work with the Sith, using both sides of the Force, and create a kind of partnership to fix the Republic. And this is where he starts to see that he's being used, and that he's made an evil bargain.
I have betrayed everyone and everything I know.
See, we always think of Anakin being a victim of Sidious, but so was Dooku. They were both manipulated, and they were both offered everything they could have ever dreamed for. Palpatine sold Anakin on the idea that he could prevent death, and he sold Dooku on the idea that they could save the Republic. In both cases, Palpatine offered the quick and easy path to success. And when Dooku expresses his regret, Palpatine says,
"Such is the price of freedom."
Hey, wait a minute. How can you say Dooku's a good guy if he wanted to kill all of his friends?
Well, I never said he was a good guy, just that he was right about the fall of the Republic and the Jedi, and he acted with the best of intentions to save everyone he cared about. See, Dooku made a huge sacrifice when he left the Order to save the planet of Serrano. He loved being a Jedi. He loved helping people. But remember, he saw a vision of the Jedi taking over the galaxy. He truly believes that there are some Jedi that want this to happen. So in this episode, he has not yet joined the Sith. He still has a blue lightsaber. See, Dooku was working with Palpatine to replace a corrupt system of government, and also the corrupt Jedi who would uphold that system. I think he probably assumed that other Jedi would rally to his cause. Now yes, this would have led to a Jedi civil war, but afterwards they would have had a new system that saved the poor worlds on the Outer Rim. Those systems that were under threat from the Hutts and other criminal cartels. I think at the very least, Dooku thought that he could convince his old allies, like the rogue Jedi Qui-Gon Jinn, that the Council was obsolete and that they should join forces. I mean, after all, we do see Qui-Gon defy the Council, or at least bend the rules when he takes Anakin as a Padawan. And Obi-Wan even tells him,
"If you would just follow the code, you would be on the Council."
So Qui-Gon, like Dooku, has a history of not following the letter of the law. They were both on that planet. They both saw how the Senator's corruption caused his people to starve. This could be why years later Dooku even says,
"I wish she were still alive. I could use his help right now."
So when Palpatine tells Dooku,
"The Jedi blindly serve a corrupt Senate that fails the Republic it represents,"
this is reinforcing a lifetime of his experiences. He has seen how the Jedi slowly went from an autonomous body to servants of a government. Hell, in Revenge of the Sith, Obi-Wan even says,
"My allegiance is to the Republic, to democracy!"
when he should have said, "My allegiance is to the Force." And you may also remember that Sidious is not telling Dooku the whole truth here. The actual truth is that Sidious wants to rule the galaxy so he can figure out a way to make himself immortal so he can rule forever. But that is not how he rose to power. See, he tells Dooku,
"I want only to bring peace and order to the galaxy."
And he made the same promise again to Anakin.
"We shall
And even the senators in the show Andor support the Emperor for this reason.
The Emperor's primary charge is to protect us.
So Dooku has been isolated from everyone he ever cared about. He has seen corruption spread for decades, and so he makes his choice. He kills Yaddle and commits to erasing the government and starting again. Now, if Qui-Gon had not died, then it's likely he would have never gone this far. However, this was very much in reaction to his death. The ineptitude of the Council led to Qui-Gon dying. Also, Dooku always planned to overthrow Palpatine, probably with Qui-Gon by his side. See, I think part of him never really embraced the ways of the Sith. He was hoping to use the dark side for his own ends, but then to restore and replace the Jedi Order as a more purely idealistic organization. After all, when he meets Obi-Wan, he tells him everything.
"What if I told you that the Republic was now under the control of the Dark Lord of the Sith?
And he wants his help.
You must join me, Obi-Wan, and together we will destroy the Sith."
So why in the world would Dooku rat out Palpatine like this? Because he wanted control. So back up a little. After Qui-Gon dies, 10 years go by, and Dooku forms a government of separatists who break away from the Republic. In Attack of the Clones, we only see the separatists as a secret cabal that was propping up this government. Corporations, the banking clan, the Trade Federation, the Techno Union. But these were not the actual planets that seceded. These were the moneyed special interests that, by the way, also continued to do business with the Republic. No, the planets that seceded were the worlds that were neglected by the Republic. Those Outer Rim worlds that Dooku advocated for back when he was a Jedi. Worlds that the Republic refused to defend from pirates. Worlds that were tired of the ineffective bureaucracy. And they make a point to say that they are not ruled by the moneyed elite.
"This is a democracy, and unlike the Republic, corporations do not rule us."
See, there's a great episode of the Clone Wars called Heroes on Both Sides, where Padme travels to the Confederate capital to sue for peace. And that is where we see that they are not so different from the Republic.
To peace, then. To hope.
We also learn that both sides have been fed propaganda.
And now my friends are saying the Jedi are to blame. How many separatists have you met?
What?
Well, I mean, you think we're all the bad guys.
And this diplomatic strategy works. The separatists vote for peace, but then those greedy self-interests sabotage the talks so they can keep making money from the war. So just for a second, think about the war from the perspective of the separatists. They were thousands of planets that felt left out of the Galactic Republic discourse. They were not given adequate security or funding, and they felt like all of the powerful people were keeping the wealth for themselves.
Yeah, this is starting to sound familiar.
So they decided to secede. This was not a secession to maintain an institution like slavery or to go off and form a Sith empire. They left the Republic peacefully to form their new government. Then, when 2 Jedi and a senator trespassed in their capital, they were tried and convicted under the laws of that world and sentenced to death. But then the Jedi launched a military incursion into sovereign space, which was then followed by a massive invasion force. The Separatists did not start this war. They did not try to take Republic worlds by force, but the clones did invade a Separatist world. So imagine that you're in a Separatist planet. You're excited about setting up your new government and getting better funding than you ever had before. And then you hear that this massive galactic government that you just seceded from sent millions of clones and advanced military hardware to attack your sister world. You would naturally assume that the Republic was going to take over your entire government. So of course they blamed the Jedi and the clones for starting the war. They did start the war. So I've told you all of this to understand where Dooku and the Separatists were coming from. Dooku did everything his master ordered. He even let himself be captured. Hell, there's even this look of horror on his face when Palpatine says,
"Kill him. Do it."
See, up until this moment, he thought that he and Palpatine were going to rule together. But you know what? How honorable is this guy? He didn't even rat out his boss after he signed his death warrant.
Took it like a man.
Yeah, but there's one thing I can't get out of my head. The Force vision. Dooku saw a future where the Jedi took control of the galaxy. Now, the Jedi, like Yoda, always say that visions of the future are nebulous and should not be trusted.
Difficult to see. Always emotion is the future.
And this is also true in the novel Dooku Jedi Lost. Sifo-Dyas sees a planet being destroyed by a massive solar storm, and the Jedi tell him to ignore the vision. And then it actually happens. Millions of people die. See, the visions always come true in Star Wars. In the Yoda comic, there's a Wookiee who has a vision of his best friend attacking him. Dooku tells him to trust the vision and investigate it, which leads to the Wookiee Jedi being paranoid, which causes his best friend to attack him. Anakin saw a vision of his wife died and then causes his wife to die. Luke sees Han and Leia in trouble, and lo and behold, they're in trouble. Leia saw a vision of her son falling to the dark side, and then her son fell to the dark side. The problem really is that people tend to act on these visions to prevent them, and then that causes them to happen. It's very Oedipal, and acting to prevent the visions, they always cause them to occur. But back to Dooku's vision. If he would have seen a vision of the events of Return of the Jedi, where like the Jedi tried to arrest Palpatine, then that would be one thing. But in the vision, the Jedi literally say,
"The rule of the Jedi has begun."
So I see 3 options here. 1, that this was just a possible future. But I don't buy that because, like I said, the visions always come true. Second option, this is something that will happen just in the far distant future. And honestly, if they set more Star Wars movies 100 years in the future, then this is a cool way to go. Jedi Civil War and Galactic Takeover sounds fun. Or third option, this really is a possible future and Dooku did prevent it from happening. Hear me out. A Jedi can fall to the dark side and not become a Sith. The Sith are a religious order that uses the dark side. And we've had Jedi like Elzar Mann and Quinlan Vos use the dark side, but then find their way back. So imagine if Palpatine's plan had never happened. Like, let's say the Sith really did go extinct. Even without Sith interference, the Jedi were slowly coming under the bureaucratic thumb of the Senate. Now, look, maybe that was because of Sith manipulations or the dark side shrine under the temple, who knows? But in the Acolyte, the senators were pressing for oversight of the council, and at the start of the prequels, the Jedi did exist to serve the Republic and not to serve the Force. So, as religion and politics became more intertwined, I think it was only a matter of time until the Jedi convinced themselves that the Senate was corrupted and that they had to govern the galaxy. I mean, after all, think about it. Imagine how much better it would be if the Jedi had to, approve every senator. They could read their minds for signs of corruption or greed. They could make sure that only the most pure-hearted individuals served in the chamber. The Jedi would make sure the morality and not profits would govern corporations. At least, this is the story they would tell themselves. As soon as the Jedi would involve themselves in politics, their desire to do good would make them fall to temptation.
I would use this ring from a desire to do good, but through me, it would wield a power too great and terrible to imagine.
Especially after Yoda dies. Yoda is the moral compass of the Jedi, so I think their involvement in politics would have corrupted them without his guiding light. And so Dooku, after seeing this vision, decided that this was an inevitable outcome. The Jedi would take control of the galaxy. So he spent his life trying to shape the system so this wouldn't happen. First, he tried this as a Jedi, and then as a Jedi representative in the Senate, and finally as leader of his own government. See, to billions of people, Dooku was an inspirational leader and a revolutionary, an idealist who only wanted the best for the galaxy. And this is also what Dooku believed about himself right up until Anakin decapitated him. So when you sit back and you look at how the Jedi Order failed and how they might have eventually seized control for themselves, don't you think that maybe, just maybe, Dooku Dooku was right. Let me know your thoughts on that down in the comments below, or you can find me on Twitter, Blue Sky Threads, or our free to join Discord server, or subscribe to me on Substack. The link for those are below. And if it's your first time here, welcome to the channel. Please subscribe, smash that bell for alerts. For ScreenCrush, I'm Ryan Airy.